Welcome back, and I hope you're ready, because today we're taking a look into my personal favorite faction of 40k. The greatest, the largest, and the most ill-equipped fighting force in the galaxy, the Astra Militarum. Imagine, if you will, yourself as a poor peasant farmer on a distant Imperial world similar to Earth. Our Earth, not what it's become. One night, after an 18-hour shift of tilling the fields and wrangling the local animals, you start making your way home. As you come into the village, you see a gathering has been called in the name of the planetary governor. There's a crowd forming around the town's crier, his mouth replaced with a massive vox speaker to let him yell above the crowd.
Proud Imperial citizens of planet 150984. Since the Imperial tithe of biofeed has been 20% smaller than expected, your gracious Emperor has elected to take the tithe in bodies instead. Congratulations on your enlistment. Blessed be our God Emperor.
You notice the crowd start to murmur as our beaties start to fill the street, pushing the mass of people into transports that are quickly flown onto a troop hull or holding orbit. As you look out of the viewport, you take one last look at your world. Congratulations! You've just been press-ganged into the Astra Militarum, given a lasgun, a piece of carapace armor that is more of a suggestion than an actual kit, and training that is just to make sure you don't shoot yourself with that lasgun, just to be thrown into the meat grinder 24 hours later. And that's one of the nicer ways to get brought into the to get brought into the Imperial Guard. This mass of humanity that keeps the pile of overworked and unfinished administration going. Sure, it might not be as glamorous, powerful, well-equipped, or as well-trained as a Space Marine, but hey, at least you have the numbers advantage if nothing else. But who makes up this force of the Imperium? What makes them tick? What are their often short and miserable lives like? And most importantly, which part of it would you rather end up conscripted in? Cadia and its guardsmen are the white toast of the guard. Raised in a military aesthetic that looks roughly like World War II American troopers, from the humble infantry squad of 10 to 20 guardsmen, a command squad, long-range fire support, all the way to the top brass, they have models and lore that keeps on going. They also have the wonderful distinction of failing so hard, the galaxy split in half. As much as guard heads such as myself would loathe to say it, the planet Acadia was broken in two by Abaddon, leaving us with a big purple tear of horror in the middle, and the Cadians with the never overused phrase of, "The planet broke before the guard did," or, alternatively, "Cadia stands!" At its core, Cadians are the poster children of the guard, equally loved and loathed for it, as their default appearance is more palatable, but often keeps more unique forces from seeing the limelight. Picture a soldier from the First World War in the full kit in the middle of a gas attack. Congratulations, you've done as much creative thinking as Games Workshop did to make the Death Corps of Krieg. Now understand, I love these somewhat suicidal, shovel-shouldering soldiers. However, we could have hoped that trench warfare would have fallen out of favor by the 42nd millennium. After a nuclear apocalypse on their homeworld of Krieg caused by an attempted secession from the Empire of Man, they amassed a metric ton of what can be best described as Catholic guilt. Fighting to reclaim their world from the secessionists, they made themselves at home in the dark tunnels and muddy trenchworks, always prepared to repay the moral debt that their forefathers created in an attempt to betray the Imperium. Bringing to bear the most advanced technology the 1800s could offer, the Death Corps will rain artillery from afar, cut down their enemies with cavalry, or simply bayonet charge into no man's land. Not to say they're going to worthlessly throw their lives away, but if it is the Imperium's best interest at heart, they will do so without hesitation. As this is what the grim demeanor of Krieg and the God Emperor demands in retribution for their past sins.
Rambo, are you still reading me?
Have you seen Rambo? Because that's the aesthetic, it's Rambo. Or any other 80s flick set in the deep jungle. But to give the Catachans their due, unlike these old-ass GW models, Catachan is a world actively hostile to human life. From the flora to the fauna, the world would love nothing more than to get rid of the humans on its surface. A literal demon invasion came to the world and was wiped out before the Imperial troopers realized. That means the guys and gals are made of some tough stuff, and it makes them even hardier as soldiers. As such, you can find them as troopers made in 1999 at full price. What the hell, GW? With only a face a mother could love, a heavy weapons squad, or a command squad. They also have some notable characters, the most important being Sly Marbo, who may or may not be behind you at this moment. If Cadia is the golden child and Krieg the dark horse in mini-releases, then Catachan is just happy to exist. I may be smoking a little copium pipe, but if trends stay as they have, Sometime in the quickly approaching 11th edition of 40k, we could hope to see this forgotten regiment get some love. Now, before I start throwing too many proper nouns at you, let's do a lightning round through some of these other regiments so I'm not here all night. These are your stormtroopers, the best of the best and kitted appropriately. Picked for the most intensive of missions and valued slightly more than the regular guardsmen. Though they are badass, their entire range is defined by 4 kits. The Tempestus Scion Squad, the Tempestus Aquilans, which are the Scion Squad but they can fly, the Tempestus Command Squad, and a special truck that came out of a children's cereal box. The Attilan Rough Riders are the mounted auxiliary, often used by the Imperial Guard when tracked vehicles aren't an option. Don't worry, we're getting to those. If you can picture a Hun or Mongol horse archer, then you may have been in the writing room when this was pitched by GW, as they are basically horse skirmishers 40k-fied, and all the better for it. The Armageddon Steel Legion. Hailing from the aptly named planet of Armageddon, where orcs, chaos, and general trouble are always kicking around, acting mainly as mechanized infantry to get around the hellscape of industrial sprawl and battlefield their homeworld has become. They have become a proficient and often tested fighting force, acting both in planetary self-defense and exporting some of the best maneuver warfare troopers in the galaxy. The Tanith First and Only. The Tanith are a skirmisher force at home in the deep woods and ambush warfare. Having come from the now dead world of Tanith, on the founding day of the new regiments, an attack from Chaos came, essentially slaughtering the world. The man who was to lead them, Commissar Colonel Imbrim Gaunt, made the choice to flee with the troops already in orbit and doom the planet. Gaunt and his ghosts are one of the most storied regiments, having 16 books and many more short stories to their name, and for what it's worth are essentially space Scots and Irish, or at least extremely Celtically influenced. They also do have a wonderful kit in plastic, which cannot be said for most of these other ones. Their vibe, Russian Civil War, White Russians. Their gimmick, the firstborn of any family on the planet is given to the Imperial Guard. Their reward, big, cool-ass bearskin hats. As amazing as they look, like many other great Guard regiments, they were killed to streamline production. I'm just scratching the surface of Guard regiments too. The ones from this point might not have any playable minis, or minis so old they could buy alcohol in the United States. But if you can think of a neat military concept, GW has probably built a regiment around it. Or, if somehow they haven't, make up their heraldry and lore yourself. It's the world of Warhammer. Have fun. Everything is lore and nothing is canon. So now that we've touched the boots on the ground, we can look at what's being used to keep them off it. As wide and as varied as the Imperial Guard is, it has a extremely large but relatively standardized set of machines of war they put to use often. The Scout Sentinel, or its armored sentinel brother, is the lightest of armor you'll find the Imperium bring to bear, fitted with a dizzying array of weapons, but more often than not a las cannon, and of course a chainsaw arm for close quarters. It's 40k. It's the go-to when the heavier armor can't make it up the train, but there's a fight to be won either way. While they might not be the beefiest that the Imperium has to offer, I take it over walking face first into a cover-sparse kill zone. After this is the Chimera, the universal troop carrier of the Guard, able to carry a full squad with manable hull-based las guns and a variety of turret options. But the chassis is also used as the core of all other lightly armored vehicles, such as the Hellhound, a variant where all of that troop space has been filled with Promethium, essentially space napalm, and a flamethrower turret, or the Basilisk, one of my personal favorite vehicles in the game. A mobile artillery piece, as who doesn't love the idea of raining hell a mile away? Or perhaps the mobile nuclear missile carrier, also known as the Death Strike missile launcher, which is certainly an option. Oh, and in lore, firing it without explicit orders to is immediately a death penalty. And now we move on to the fun stuff. Trackheads rejoice as Black Bess, who crawled her way back from World War I, the universal, the beloved, the box of treads, the Lehman Russ battle tank. Does it look like a kid toy from the 80s? Maybe. Does it have more flat surfaces than you would want on any tank? Certainly. But is it the core of any armored push in the Imperium? Indubitably. This baby is what keeps the Imperium's tank core rolling, and no force is complete without it. Capable of carrying more weapon loadouts than you could shake a stick at, And you can be certain that the ones that look the dumbest are the best at all times. Is it perfect? No. But no guard army would be complete without its brick on treads. And that's not to say there isn't a nicer, sleeker version of it in the game of Horus Heresy. Horus Heresy is a prequel to 40k, set in the Imperium Civil War. We really don't have time for it. And there is no reason that if it fit the look of your desired guard force, you couldn't use it. But the original Lehman Russ holds something dear to me. Not that his big brother isn't cool. The Rogel Dorn is essentially a bigger, bulkier, and overall better looking tank that borrows lightly from designs such as the British Churchill series, but with a sleeker hull and so much more detail, what's not to love? Of course, this is the biggest tank the Guard brings to bear, already easily being a heavy tank, and anything more would be absurd. The Baneblade! This is the pinnacle of tank design, taken to its logical extreme and then 10 miles too far. In other words, perfect for 40k. This sucker can be built 8 different ways, is almost certainly too big to be used in a game of 40k as it can't fit anywhere, and it is certain to make you known as the guy who owns a Baneblade. In other words, it is complete perfection, made into a single model. Is there any practical design in super heavy tanks? Well, the last folks who tried it went through more transmissions in the mouse than someone shifting from 6th gear to 1st at 100 kilometers an hour. But I'll be damned if it doesn't look badass. If you bring this puppy to a war, you know you've won on drip alone, and that's really what matters. And that's it for the Imperial Guard, or what I'm able to cover. While not being all-inclusive, the Imperial Guard being the most diverse and wide-spanning fighting force in the galaxy, it would be almost impossible for me to cover every single piece of Guard info in a video anyone would actually want to watch. Trust me, I have a whole section on notable characters we'll be coming back to that I had to cut to save time. That being said, if you feel like I missed something critical to Guard lore, please do drop it in a comment, and I'll be certain it gets added to the list. In fact, if you have anything at all you want me to talk about in 40k, or any of the either major Warhammer IPs, drop it in the comments and I'll see personally it gets added to my list. That Sly Marble one did get added. Otherwise, please feel free to like and subscribe. And on that note, thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the Grimdark. Hey Eric, where the fuck's that Baneblade?